Daniel Ricciardo has been related to Red Bull yet again, and with the latest statement of Helmut, Marko and Christian Horner, the chances have just skyrocketed. While many think that the Honey Badger has lost it and doesn't have it in himself anymore, he's more than ready to prove everyone wrong in Silverstone during the Pirelli test. But this would be just the first step of us seeing him back in the sport, and one thing is for sure, a massive shake-up is waiting for us in terms of the drivers' lineup in Red Bull or AlphaTauri, and we're down for it. Ever since he left Red Bull in 2018, Ricciardo hasn't been able to find himself a proper home, winning a couple of podiums for Renault and a race win for McLaren. However, his latest voyage with the Woking-based squad has left him with a massive lack of self-confidence and ability to perform. And when he returned to Red Bull, this was something that was confirmed by Marko and Horner as well. Horner spoke exclusively about this matter, saying that the team was quite surprised about some of the habits that were picked up by Ricciardo in McLaren. However, he was able to get back on track very soon, and his simulator work with the RB19 helped the team a lot in understanding how the car should behave on track. That is what earned him the Silverstone Pirelli tyre test, and while we might not sound very excited about this event, it could eventually lead to his return to the sport, but with a lot of other consequences for other drivers. For example, the situation between Perez and Verstappen isn't great right now, no matter how much we're trying to sugarcoat it or the team trying to hide it. The truth is that Perez is not as competitive as Red Bull would want him to be, and even after the team has officially asked him to be realistic and accept his second role in the team, he's gone public and said that the 69-point deficit is not something that would demotivate him in the championship pursuit. Now, even though the team could not just pay attention to that, the last thing they need for the sponsorships and the popularity of the team, with the latter being at the brink of zero with their infamous budget cap breach and the advantage that they've gained in 2023 from it, it's safe to say that the replacement of Perez named Ricciardo is lurking in the shadows, waiting to be released. But while this is a scenario that we want to witness right away in 2023, it seems like the Aussie would have to wait until 2024 when Red Bull would be ready to terminate the contract. And one thing that points towards this scenario happening in real life is the latest statement from Helmut Marko, the senior advisor for Red Bull. When talking about his agreement with Horner over certain stuff in the team, he spoke about the current situation with De Vries, revealing a shock fact about the commitment that Horner wanted to have with the Dutchman. As Marko went on to say, "We don't disagree often, but we do sometimes. The last one was where I would say Nick De Vries, and at the moment it looks like Horner is right. It's AlphaTauri, not Red Bull, but as we're a big family, I would say we're at least getting opinions." And he was not so big of a fan of Nick De Vries. Furthermore, Marko said that it was Tost who lobbied for Schumacher, but he felt like the young German driver wouldn't fit in with their driving style, and that's why the team opted for the one-race wonder, Nick De Vries. At the age of 26, starting an F1 career seems like a bit of a bigger challenge than one would originally anticipate, and this fact in of itself goes to show that Red Bull doesn't have patience once their young drivers are showing a lack of competitiveness. Truth be told, that's exactly what happened to Albon and Gasly, and it seems like this is something that's awaiting either Perez or De Vries, but that's the harsh reality of the sport, and we're just living in it. The question now is whether or not Red Bull will be making the right move by bringing back Ricciardo, and whether or not they're going to opt for this choice, because from what we can see they did the same with Perez, picking an older driver rather than someone from the academy to groom and develop in a further champion. However, with Tsunoda always being on the brink of scoring points, with P11 being his most frequent finishing place, if Ricciardo shows up to the parade and proves to everyone that he's still got it in himself to be a top driver, then rest assured that he would be one of the greatest assets that Red Bull could have at this moment. What might seem like a bigger challenge for him to overcome is the time that he spent outside of an F1 car. But according to Horner and Marko, he's been making steady moves towards improvement, and right now he's definitely proving to everyone that he's still hungry for an F1 seat and is eyeing a return in 2024, whether that would include an alternative way or not.
As much as I wanted this break, I also was like, okay, I feel this way because I still love it, and I wanted this time to really understand how much I do, but yeah, I certainly don't feel done or retired, so.
Good,
yeah.
I'm glad to hear it. So we think next year will be a good one.
That's the plan. Yeah, that's the plan.
When talking about this matter, the Honey Badger has denied his initial wish to either drive for a top performing team or not drive at all, as he went on to say, "I've been in the simulator, but I will drive the RB19 in July after the Silverstone race. then maybe I'll get another one after Monza as well in September. I'm certainly excited to drive a fast car, but also a car that maybe still feels familiar to me. It does a little bit in the sim, but I'm just excited to drive again and to just try to remind a team, obviously I once had a lot of success with, that I can still turn a fast lap. You think that all of this is just a false hope, right? Well, if you were to ask Helmut Marko about Perez's future, his statement would definitely raise some questions from the Mexican fans and the fans of the Austrian squad as well, as Marko said that Perez's initial goal was 2 or a maximum of 3 years with the team, which is now already an accomplished mission for him and he doesn't have anything to regret. What doesn't seem to sit right with Marko in Horner is the fact that Perez doesn't seem to accept the fact that there is only one Verstappen in the team, and if you're to challenge him, you need to be 120% invested in every race. This is not the scenario with Perez, as he missed out on 3 consecutive Q3 appearances and hasn't appeared on the podium in all of these races, which resulted in him losing out the step to Verstappen from 6 to 69 points. Furthermore, Alonso is breathing down his neck with just a handful of points behind him, and with Perez's recent slump of performance, the team cannot rely on him if a potential issue appears in Verstappen's car. With Hulkenberg, we've seen that even with a 3-year hiatus, it's still possible to perform at a high level once you're given the right car. And if we're being bluntly honest, Ricciardo's car would be the best one on the grid. It's quite disappointing to see Perez not delivering the results that we expect him to do in the last 3 races, and this is definitely something that has the potential to see him being escorted out of the team. And with De Vries's latest slump of performance as well, Ricciardo's signature with AlphaTauri would be the right move for the Italian squad, mostly because he has the experience and is the right choice in terms of scoring regular points. In times where AlphaTauri is now struggling to keep up its reputation and value high in the sport, the last thing they need is a struggling rookie who's not able to score points. Although it's not entirely his fault that he's driving a dysfunctional car in his first season in the sport. But hey, this is the reality of Red Bull's environment, and what more can we do than just live in it? That's why we definitely want to see Ricciardo back in Formula 1, and if he manages to get that Red Bull seat on the alternative way, which involves him proving himself in AlphaTauri and then receiving the Red Bull seat as a reward for 2024, that would be the perfect ending of his career, something that he spoke about. In terms of retiring, the best case scenario for Ricciardo would be to end his career where everything started, in Red Bull. And now that this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity presented itself to him, I assure you that he would give 120% in that Pirelli tyre test to prove that he's still the old honey badger we're used to and not just the shadows we're seeing in Renault and McLaren. With this in mind, do you think that Ricciardo has what it takes to beat De Vries and Perez for the seat in Red Bull or AlphaTauri? Let us know in the comments down below.